Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I just want to do a quick run through of a stack of albums here that really helped to inspire me as I was discovering music. I mean, I heard everything on the radio. I grew up in the late 60s, through the 80s. So yeah, you know what kind of music I heard. I heard pretty much a little bit of everything. Always listened to radio, America's Top 40 Countdown. I'm the youngest of seven, so my older brothers and sisters were, in the 70s. That was a heyday for music for them. And as a kid growing up, I got to listen to all of it. But really quickly, I mean, there was music in the household. My mom played piano beautifully. One of her sisters also played piano. I think she played at silent movie houses. My oldest brother played trumpet, great musician. And a couple of my sisters also played piano. So I discovered drums about 12 years old. Is when I decided I want to start playing. But as far as music around the house, that's going to be a separate video, just stuff I heard and obviously stuff on the radio. But big band was what my mom really liked. Benny Goodman, Glenn Miller. This is a great one. Glenn Miller in the Digital Mood. It's more recent, but it's a very clean rendition on GRP Records of Glenn Miller Orchestra. Just great stuff, sounds fantastic, but I heard it on records. Another one that was around the house was Chase. It's a trumpet band. Just a great band. I did a cover of Get It On. It's on my channel. Check it out if you've never heard it, but killer band. Great drums on this, great rhythm section. Tonight Show Band. Eddie Shaughnessy on drums, phenomenal. Doc Severinsen led that. This is one of my brother's albums. He gifted me his albums, my oldest brother. So he had a lot of Al Hirt and, Herb Alpert. And this one, Doc Severinsen's Closet, Doc's still playing as far as I know. There's a cover of King Crimson's In the Court of the Crimson King, which I didn't know until I got this. And that's very cool. But I watch the Tonight Show all the time. This album was around the house. Buddy Rich Big Band. You think I didn't listen to this? Right when I was starting, I mean, it seemed impossible, and to this day, it seems impossible. I don't have the dedication to build chops like Buddy. Few people do, and few people will ever reach that. But my other brother always had muscle cars, Mustang Fastbacks, Camaro, Torino, always had 8-track players in Boston. These aren't in any particular order and not necessarily the very albums, but just being representative of the band Boston, great drums on there. My band actually covers 2 Boston songs, so I still love that to this day. But Sib, rest in peace, man. I just love the first 3 Boston albums. Doobie Brothers, any Doobie Brothers. That's some cool playing. You get a couple drummers playing, groove music, and very generous musicians sharing the stage and leaving room for one another. But just cool music. I mean, listening to this stuff growing up was magical. It still is, but hearing it for the first time was very special. Edgar Winter, of course, Frankenstein and Free Ride on this album. What drummer didn't get blown away by Frankenstein? I didn't know how many people were playing, if it was one octopus drummer, or I didn't realize Edgar was playing timbales on that until I saw the video later. REO Speedwagon, Live Go For What You Know, great album, great band. They're local to Central Illinois, Champaign area. I think Gary was from Peoria, but this album was fantastic. First concert I saw, High Infidelity Tour, so a lot of ballads, but when they played the stuff from this era, the place went bananas. The first album I ever purchased, Kiss Alive, I was at Mother Murphy's, Rock and Roll Emporium since 1968, downtown Normal, it's still there, cool hippie head shop, traditions being carried on by some great people. But I saw a picture of Kiss up there, and 8x10 glossy, and I bought it, and went out and found this album, Kiss Alive, and I heard 100,000 Years. The jungle drums hooked me, man. The pictures in here of, Pete and the kit, and just the band, just the whole thing. It's like, I want to play drums. And soon after discovered this, The Who, The Kids Are All Right, Mooney the Looney, Keith, he was something else. he could play tight, but he could also play sloppy. You know, he passed out on one show. They had to have a kid from the audience finish the show on drums. But huge impact on my career. He kind of made it okay to knock drums over. I don't always do that by choice, but it's happened before. And of course, Bonzo. Any Led Zeppelin album, Bonzo, I really like Fool in the Rain. Just, it really shows off how that man can swing, how he can groove. Delicate touch, but just power. Those big drums, and they never played anything twice the same way. So I don't try to cover it exactly note for note like these albums. It's you know, it's a living, breathing thing as far as I'm concerned. Pat Travers, Go For What You Know, live. Tommy Aldridge, can't say enough about Tommy. The way he plays double bass, it's not just not machine gun. He'd start and end fills with and incorporate toms and snare and the bass drums. The way he did things and still does things. Tommy's one in a million. I first heard him with Black Oak, Arkansas, doing Up. Now, Narada Michael Walden, Jan Hammer, Richard Bailey, all played drums on this, mostly Narada Michael Walden, but the intro to Blue Wind, that's Jan Hammer playing drums on that track. But Jeff Beck, my favorite musician of all time, rest in peace. His legend's going to live on. He's never going to be forgotten. There's never going to be another guy like him. He's up in heaven shredding with Stevie and BB and Jimmy, and they're having a time of their eternal lives. But that very huge album, when I first heard that, Simon Phillips, There and Back with Jeff. I knew there was something special about that guy when I later saw him on my Laserdisc I bought when I was in Germany, him playing on the Tommy tour with The Who and the greatest hits. He sold me. He's amazing and one of the greatest players ever. Santana, any Santana. I could never tell just hearing the music how many people were on stage. It sounded like 30 or 40 people playing at the same time. But when I figured it out, it's like I learned how percussion incorporates with one another. And again, it's a sharing thing. It's a communal thing. It's just everybody just sharing of themselves and the incredible music. I mean, Santana, that's an eternal influence on me. Styx, of course, John Panazzo. What a great band. I mean, this is like commercial prog as, like Kansas, same thing, popular songs, but also, odd time and just weird structure and concepts and things like that. Two huge bands which still influence me, and my band covers that material too. Asia, Steely Dan, enough said. That's enough said. Any Steely Dan, any cool groove music. I mean, Santana, Steely Dan, Doobie Brothers, all these things kind of hit me. And Supertramp too. It's just like this, all this music in the same time coming together. It's just really had an impact on everybody who listened to music, even casually. We were so blessed to have just, immersed ourselves, the people who did immerse themselves in music and listen to it any chance they could, putting on the radio in the car or at home, just my little transistor radio, any chance I got. I was hearing all this stuff and just building up my vocabulary, and that paid off later. Old ZZ Top is what I first got exposed to, and Texas Blues, man, it's great stuff. He has his own way of playing shuffles, and they have their own way of just digging it. And man, I'm glad I found this old stuff before, the more commercial stuff, Legs and all that. Of course, the only song I know on this album, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, it's a 17-minute full song, bass, drums, keys, the cool organ, but the drum solo, I think everybody learned, not note for note, but pretty much how to play this. Any drum solos I did were basically based on that and didn't stray too far. And when this album came out, it just set the world on fire. I mean, not just Eddie, but Alex Van Halen. That's a special guy right there, the way that man plays drums. He and his brother, their musical education, the way that they came up, switching instruments. But Alex, he's a tremendous player. One of these Canadian power trios, Triumph, Just everybody loved them in the 80s. And Gilmore, that big Imperial Star kit he has with all those concert toms on there, that had an effect on me. You know, just the massive drum sets. I had to build. Everybody wanted to build one, but didn't really have the money, so I put together kind of a crappy Frankenstein kit. But that was the start. Ozzy Osbourne, his solo stuff, Lee Kerslake on drums, and of course, you know, Tommy Aldridge playing this stuff live. That's what really hit me. I mean, but listening to these albums, Diary of a Madman, Blizzard of Oz, I listened to them over and over, and I dug all the instruments on there. You know, Randy and but Ozzy, he was at peak form back then. Of course, these guys, the Police. Massive impact, Stuart Copeland. You want to talk about a special player. The guy knows, understands, appreciates world music. He's been to different countries. He's lived in different countries. He's played all different kinds of music with some amazing people, and a lot of times couldn't even speak their language. But when everybody starts playing together, you know, you find the commonalities. But he, very, very special player. And his kit, too, that weird kit with the octobans. I think he added a gong drum, but no one plays cymbals. Well, Vinny kind of does, but Stewart has his own way of playing cymbals, splashes, and hi-hats, and just a killer band. I love them. I saw this concert, Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast in Springfield, Illinois, and Scorpions headlined the Blackout Tour. You want to talk about a great show, but drum-wise, yeah, Maiden, it's there with Clive Burr or Nico. You know, that's amazing metal drumming, but just fun as hell to play to. It's kind of a cheesy album, The Bees. A couple of the guys were in The Boys from Illinois, but great band from Chicago area. Our guitarist dated the singer's sister. That's Tom Holland, the singer. Went up and see them play. Mike Tafoya, Tony Holinkovich, David Angel, and Steve Riley, who went on to play with Wasp and L.A. Guns, but saw the band play, then went up to Tom's house in Lake Geneva, crashed, woke up the next morning on a couch in the basement, and Steve Riley's down there watching, you know, flipping through cartoons and wrestling, and we're sharing cold pizza from the night before, and he had a drum set for sale. I wish I had bought it, but I was a kid. I was like 16, 17. I didn't have the money, but little known fact, the guy who painted this, Araldo Carregati, I believe is how you say his name, he also did Rush Fly By Night cover and also the Kiss solo albums. But this is a neat little album. I mean, it was right for the times and, you know, in this area. And of course, Queensryche, this EP is the first thing I bought. 4 songs. It's just, you know, it's kick-ass. Lady Wore Black, and of course, Queen of the Reich. I saw them open up for an Embarrassed Kiss. It was on the Warning tour, you know, Take Hold of the Flame, and they just rocked it. They ruled, and then Kiss came out in bandanas and animal prints and played their new songs that nobody wanted to hear, and everyone wanted Queensryche to come back on stage, and yeah, that's pretty much the end of it for Kiss. Utopia. What I really like about this is Willie Wilcox. He had a weird drum set. Another thing that had an effect on me, he had like that motorcycle frame with like electronic pads. He had a chain drive bass drum pedal. It was like 3 or 4 feet in front of the kit, and it spun around sideways and stuff like that. I saw him at Braden Auditorium in Normal. It was Utopia in the Tubes. What a great show. But Prairie Prince, man, he's a hell of a player. But just seeing that weirdo drum kit, it kind of, you know, sparked something in me. And Pictures at 11, Robert Plant, of course, Phil Collins' work on here is fantastic. Phil Collins, you could hear in the 80s, you always knew Phil was playing on the track. Whether it's Frida or Robert Plant or anybody else, you know, Do They Know It's Christmas? You heard those concert toms barking. You knew who was playing on there. There's some guys that have that more than others. Speaking of Phil Collins, this is the first Genesis album I got. Seconds out, you know, Bruford's on one of the tracks. There's a great video of them playing live on this tour, Bill and Phil. If you haven't seen it, man, go check that out, the Trick of the Tail tour. But I did a drum cover of Firth of Fifth from this, pulled out Chester's drums, so it was previously blocked. I think you can see it on my channel, though. but huge influence. Phil, kind of a stunt drummer. He always knew where one was, and the fills that he would do would start, on the of two or the and of three or somewhere weird what he would do, and he just winging it every time, but he's always dead on. His work with Brand X too, I really enjoyed, but I didn't discover that till later. Rush, yeah, of course. Neil Peart. There's no one else like him. You could have put not John Rutsey, but you could have got another hot shot drummer in there in this band. You could have got a dozen hot shot different drummers in this band. They wouldn't have had the ability to write the lyrics, make the songs interesting, or come up with parts. These were the parts he came up with were the only parts that probably ever could have fit in these songs. God bless him for it. God rest his soul. Very important part of my development. Just huge, huge. And of course, Pink Floyd, Nick Mason, the quality of the production on this, thanks to Alan Parsons in great part, but the quality of the drums on this stuff, I can just sing every drum part. I can sing every instrument part, but the drums on it, just phenomenal. I got turned on to Floyd. I had to listen to some of the earlier stuff, but this and The Wall, that really, really did it for me as far as me being interested, further interested in drums. Fusion, I got turned on to Mahavishnu Orchestra, Billy Cobham, John McLaughlin, Jerry Goodman, Jan Hammer. This is just good stuff all the way around. And that changed me. I'd never heard anything like this. I don't think anybody had. But I picked this up in a cutout bin. Tony Williams. He's got some heavy players on this album: Tom Scott, Herbie Hancock, George Benson, Jan Hammer, Paul Jackson, Michael Brecker. Not the greatest album. Not like I can't hum any of these songs on here, but I'm glad I picked this up. It's a cool album. Just tons of great playing on there. But that's a hell of a drummer. If you don't know Tony Williams, learn Tony Williams. Probably the best prog album ever. Close to the Edge. I don't have to say much more. Out of the 30 lineups that Yes has had, this is probably the best. It's probably the top of the heap. Most well regarded. Of course, after Bill plays in this lineup, he jumps the fence over into King Crimson, and God bless him for doing that. Had probably the most interesting career of any drummer. Other people have played with more artists probably, but the collaborations he had, the fraternization he engaged in, like no other. His family tree musically and the cats he played with, very impressive. Bruford's had probably the biggest impact of anyone on me. And of course, 90125, great album for the time. This and Big Generator, they were the right sound for the time. Trevor Horn producing, he's fantastic job. The right man for the job, and solid stuff. I did do a cover of Changes, one of my first 5 drum covers, so you have to scroll way back, but I did that on my black and gold pearl kit. And when I discovered King Crimson, especially the series of 3 albums, Lark's Tongues and Aspic, Starless and Bible Black, and Red. Yeah, that's it, man. It's like, yeah, I like this band, King Crimson. I listened to their earlier stuff, but this stuff really hits me in the gut. This, thought of by many as the finest King Crimson album. Certainly my favorite lineup. I'm a Bruford guy all the way through and through. I did do a cover of Red. I think it got blocked. But I did do a cover of Lark's Tongues and Aspic. That is still up. And of course, this era King Crimson, of course, 85, I was in a bar in International Falls, Minnesota. And taking a break between sets, I looked up on the TV, and there's King Crimson, the Japan concert that I've now seen about 8 dozen times. But they couldn't turn the sound on for me. And of course, UK. Now with Bruford and Holdsworth, of course, what do you think's my favorite one? Yeah. And then they went on to do a very special album after that. And then Terry Bozzio came in and just killed it. Awesome album. And the live one's great too. I like hearing how Bozzio plays the songs Bruford originally did. His own take, but still giving honor to the original. And, of course, Buzzy also played with Zappa, not on this one, but you got Ralph Humphrey and, Chester Thompson and Vinnie Colaiuta, Chad Wackerman, but Terry, he was a perfect drummer for Zappa. That's a Zappa drummer. Dregs, Rod Morgenstein, industry standard. This is the first one I picked up. I love it. I actually did a drum cover of Blood Sucking Leeches. That's on my channel. Go check that out. But yeah, these guys, I'm listening to this Hillbilly Fusion or whatever in the world it is. I love every bit of it. Dregs, Dixie Dregs, and I also discovered Spyro Gyra, which is basically cool Latin influenced jazz, but it's neat stuff. Any of their albums, Morning Dance, Catching the Sun, this is Breakout. And if you want to learn a fun drum song to play, Richie Morales is drummer on this. Listen to Bob Goes to the Store. You want to practice your independence and learn something very, very cool. Learn Bob Goes to the Store. That's a tough one. And last but certainly not least, my absolute favorite, the finest fusion album in my eyes, Bruford One of a Kind. There's a lot of people that hold this up to the screen in videos I've seen as like the greatest album by, a singles album by any Yes member. This one's usually at the very end of those videos, but if you've not heard Bruford One of a Kind with Alan Holdsworth, Dave Stewart on keyboards, Jeff Berlin on bass, go do that right now. But those are just a few of the albums. Now, of course, I've been influenced by everything I heard, by other people, I've known that heard played. I was in marching band, listened to classical stuff and played in concert band, but the stuff on the radio, the top 40, stuff my brother played, you're hearing the jazz band practice in the house, going to watch him play in the jazz band, listening to trumpet and just all the albums that he gave me. I mean, that's going to be part of my, house music that I heard around the house growing up. That's going to be probably a multi-part series, but I got to cut this one short. I went too long the first time I recorded this. So let me know, what are your favorite albums as far as that really influenced you to pick up drums or to continue playing drums or to take a different direction. But hopefully that kind of gives you an idea. But look at the songs that I'm covering on my channel, and it'll reflect a lot of this. I did a cover of Chase, Get It On, that trumpet band. There's a cover of that on there too. So, check those out. Let me know what you think on those videos and just, give me your favorites. I don't want to hear any best of. I don't care about that. What are your favorites? What are things that inspired you and still keep you going to this day? But again, thanks for coming back to the channel. I'm going to try to add interesting content more and more, but I appreciate all the feedback I've been getting and new subscribers. I haven't been at it very long. I've had the channel for about 8 years, but I'm going to start doing more than just drum covers, but I'll continue to do some of those as we go on. But thanks again. If you like the video, click like. If you want be alerted when I get new videos up, hit the bell icon. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share the video if you want somebody to see this or any of the other videos I've done. But thanks very much for your time. I'll see you around.